AMI is just an opportunity to know what you don't know, because the data don't lie. So today we've got an amazing team of AMI experts. They're awesome, magnificent individuals. They're going to share their experiences with their AMI. And we put together a handy dandy old fashioned paper spreadsheet so that you can take notes, and you can also write down, you know, hey, I want to learn more about this when somebody talks about it. So take this with you. If we don't have enough time for Q&A at the end, you know who everybody is, and you can come visit them on the breaks, and or you can email them. So without further ado, this is the whole fabulous, awesome, magnificent individual team. Really like such a great group to work with. And today you're going to learn about leak alerts and beyond. So we've got the 6 different water providers. We've got a couple people from the same agency, Q&A at the end. Check out that handout. Ooh, and this is an AMI chart. What does this say to you? Anybody can see right off the bat. The more you read it, the more you're like, boom, I got it. This was a water leak somebody didn't know about. Within what, a couple of weeks, it flowed up to 40,000 gallons a day. That's a leak of leaking over 2 pools worth of water a day. You think they'd know right away, but they didn't. So we're going to start off with William. Take it away.
All right. Can everybody hear me in the back? All right. So I'm William Granger. I'm the Water Conservation Coordinator for the City of Sacramento. And Debbie said we had about 5 minutes, and then she said 7. So I'm going to try to quickly share some of the things that we've been able to do with AMI. We roll to the next slide, please. So some basics about the City of Sacramento. The takeaway is we're 100% metered and 100% AMI. Within the data points that we have, the endpoints that we have, about 3/4 of them can read leaks that are below 1 cubic foot per hour. So some water agencies are limited to that threshold, which is 180 gallons per day. Some can go beyond that. So that's something we're kind of excited about. So the other takeaways, AMI systems are all slightly different. We have about 300 gateways throughout the city to try to pick up that hourly water use. And there is a 3-hour lag that we can see and customers can then see if they sign up for the web portal. So about this time in 2017, we were able to launch our automation of our leak letters. We don't have email addresses for everybody or cell phone numbers. So we thought, let's automate letters to go out to customers. So some basics up there. At this exact moment, our threshold set at 150 gallons per day for single family customers. And we have about 16 different premise types that we can set leak alerts to. Or I should say that we're comfortable setting leak alerts for. We have some customers that are large multifamily that we do not send out leak alerts. It's a bit more complicated, but single family, duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, irrigation accounts, commercial office buildings, cemeteries, churches, we do send out leak letters to those, and we have slightly different thresholds. Some are 3 days, some are 5 days. Single family, 90% of our customer leak letters go out to single family customers. They're set at, as shown up here, actually didn't change. 150, not 130 gallons per day for 5 days, then they get that leak letter. So since about this time in 2017, we've been automatically sending out leak letters 5 days a week. You can see that we've been fairly consistent. This is by fiscal year, so I don't know if there's a pointer, but the 2018 column is fiscal year 2018. So part of the way through 2018, we started sending out those automated letters, and we've been pretty consistent the last couple of years, sending out over 20,000 leak letters a year. Do people read those letters? Do they respond to those letters? The answer, if you saw the Alliance for Water Efficiency study that came out recently on leak alerts, the answer is yes. So we've been able to say that we are saving close to about 400 acre feet just from those leak alerts. And then roughly 10% of those customers do reply. They do reply to those leak letters and call for assistance. So they'll say, hey, I'd like you to come out there and try to help me find that leak. They couldn't find it on their own, or they couldn't find it entirely, and they call for help. So in addition to sending out those letters, we do also try to drive people to the web portal. We're using Badger's My Water portal. This is essentially what the customer can see. Up here, you can actually see the irrigation event from a couple of years ago for this particular customer. There's some big spikes from when they're not watering to when they are watering. It's an opt-in system. That's our limitation at the moment, and you have to opt in twice to set that leak alert. And you can set it as low as 1 gallon per hour, but depending on the meter, you can't necessarily get a notice if you have that small of a leak. One of the things that we are trying to do, because not everybody responds to our letters, our cost of water is relatively low, is reaching out to those customers that have longstanding leaks, so we can look in our portal and see who has a leak for 90 plus days, over 10 cubic feet per hour, or 75 gallons per hour. And we reach out to them. We'll visit them if we don't have a phone number for them, leave a door tag, follow up, and try to get their attention. Why don't they reply though? Sometimes they can't afford to make the leak repair. Back in 2016, we had a grant. We've carried it forward slowly. We have a plumber on retainer that will go out and do the leak repairs for customers, single family homeowners that qualify. And then more recently, we added a leak repair rebate for those that are not in the red shaded areas of the city. They can get a rebate depending on what the threshold is, the leak threshold is. We'll go out and confirm that they have a leak. Uh-oh. So there you go. Hold those questions till later.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Deb Lane, and I work for the City of Santa Rosa Water Department. Happy to be here today to talk to you about how we support our customers reduce water waste through our AMI system and beyond. A little bit about us. You can see we're a medium-sized city, and our system's 100% on AMI now. This is a breakdown. That's a density of how many customers we've interacted with. So we've had a program since the 70s, our water use efficiency program. And so we've got a nice robust program of offerings for our customers. Our system installation began in 2017. We completed it in 2021. I mentioned it's 100% of the system. We use census on our regional network interface, and that's the cloud-based software that collects the data from the towers, transmits the data to the meters, and it holds the data for 90 days of storage. It's not long-term storage. And we handle that through our MDM, the SmartWorks, and our CIS, which is our billing software. We use SmartWorks that's the customer portal, and we use Hansen for our asset management software. So there are two ways that we currently utilize the AMI to identify leaks. Our billing department pulls the reports from the RNI and works them internally. And then customers can set up their own notifications through our portal. And here's a couple of examples. I quizzed this team up here, and it took a little while for them to figure out what the leak was on the left. That was an irrigation valve that was stuck open over 1,000 gallons an hour. You see our gallons on the left axis and time. Each bar is an hour on the bottom axis there. And the graph on the right is an old church facility with lots of leaks and breaks, and a gradual mainline break that got worse and I think eventually ruptured. So this is the thresholds of how we have set the system. It was initially we just went with a guess, and as issues have been resolved and our reports we've been able to work the reports, and they're smaller. We've tightened up the parameters to address some of the smaller leak issues. We can adjust these as needed. And so you can see that for each customer class, We have how many hours that the gallons per hour will be above a threshold, and for how many, and the gallons per hour itself before the system sends an alert. And then the customers can set their own leak parameters in the portal. So our billing department, I think this is just one of the most wonderful things about how I get to work with AMI. And it's good to think about this early in the process if you are a retailer. We couldn't do and provide the kind of service that we do if it wasn't for their efforts up front. So billing pulls the continuous use reports, they work them, they clear as many as they can, they send letters to the customer for high use, continuous use, and they actually call the customer if it's over 100 gallons per hour. And once they go through, I think they try twice, and then they forward to water use efficiency after they've gotten no response. So we've developed our own process of how we handle it, and we contact the account holder, which can be challenging. I run the commercial industrial institutional program. I mean, it's much easier with single family residents, right? But tracking down the right person when the bill goes to somewhere in like Idaho or Texas, right, is important. I have much better success when I do that. We offer an audit, we discuss the data, and then we talk about the water waste ordinance, our water waste ordinance, which I'll go into and follow up with them until we resolve it. We consider continuous use to be a water waste for most customers, especially single family residents. I know sometimes continuous use is normal, right, for CII. And in those cases, I often tend to talk to the customer, figure out what normal continuous use is for them, and then adjust the parameters on their meters to try and still provide leak detection. And also not trigger the alerts for every little bit of use. So I think this is a huge key, and I know it's we're fortunate that our city elected officials and decision makers support this and have for a long time. We adopted a water waste ordinance in 1999. And so that is a big driver on how we're getting a lot of participation with customers once they are notified that they've got unusual continuous use. So we start with education and assisting them, and then we would, before we move into enforcement, we're very hands-on and provide a lot of customer service. Single family residents, we send 3 warning letters, we make calls before we get to, we can actually disconnect service under the ordinance. And before we would put out a disconnection door tag and then shut off. So we have about 800 cases of water waste annually now that our AMI system's up and running. About 5 residential customers per year have had service disconnected due to water waste. So it's not something that happens often, but we can do it if we need to. And I'm in the process of taking an ordinance revision through to city council, and we're adding an administrative fine for, particularly for CII customers, because those are a lot of essential services. And also there just could be undue economic hardship shutting down a business or a grocery store or shopping center or hospital or fire station, police station. So we feel that's going to motivate customers where shut off isn't an option. And this thing is huge, having this ordinance. So we've had a lot of success in supporting our customers, a big increase in our water smart checkups. We need admin support now because our phones are so much busier, lots of emails, lots of high usage letters, and we're getting water savings. I mean, we couldn't offer a water smart checkup to every one of those 800 reports per year because we don't have enough staff. Prior to having AMI, had to work hard to get CII customers to want audits, right? And now it's not hard at all because I just work the continuous use report. And I've been working it now for, I guess, 2-3 years, and the system's kind of settling in, right? Where, ruling out the normal continuous use, and lots of leaks being fixed and found, and equipment malfunction being fixed and found. And the plan is for me, as I've gotten this list to like 120 down to like 30 and working that. And once we get this ordinance revision, I think we anticipate we're going to have an exception in the ordinance and an appeals process. We don't have that right now. It was just a very simple little ordinance from 1999. But I'll be able to crank down those thresholds and find the smaller leaks, right? So the system's got a lot more potential. We just don't have the staff capacity to support all the work we could create for ourselves and even more customer interactions. So I definitely have been drinking the Kool-Aid on this one. It's great. And then water savings. Here is just an evaluation of our single-family residence program. We are able to pull a report in SmartWorks. It's just for SFR customers. So you can see the amount of between 2020, 2023, 2,100 leaks detected, about 500 to 700 detected annually. That's about 1% of our service area. So it tells us an average leak per hour and the average leak hours. And from there, we're able to estimate water savings based on both of those factors for leaks, which were resolved after a notification was sent to the customer. So you can see that's, almost 2.2 million gallons of water savings alone. And I didn't pull together the most recent CII when we're looking at water savings with CII, where we've just been assuming had we not reached out to the customer and worked with them, the leak would have gone on for like as long as it had been going on. Well, in some cases, these leaks have been going on before we had the AMI meter data. So I think in 2021, it was about 12 million gallons of water waste averted. Our customer portal is, we have kind of a low it's opt-in only. 10% of our service area has an account. I've heard that 4 to 10% is an average for other utilities. So portal is a challenge for other cities as well. The reports are limited. It's not intuitive. We continually need to push people to sign up for leak alerts. So my last slide here, some of the unforeseen benefits. We knew we'd be improving customer service, but it has really brought us to working so much more closely together with billing and finance. The regulatory reporting, we've got much more accurate data, reduced staff time. It helped us a lot with drought reporting, the customer support, getting that more granular data. During the Tubbs fire in 2017, we identified 5 to 10, 800 to 1,000 gallon per hour leaks through AMI. So, I mean, the city was burning and AMI was still letting us know, where to go and where to send some crews out to deal with some of these really big leaks. GPS helped locate the meters. Even during COVID, we found it was a good time to identify leaks at schools and many businesses that were closed. So we were able to contact and assist school maintenance and address those issues. So I'll be up for questions at the end, but that's my little overview.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Justin Finch at Moulton Niguel Water District, and this is my amazing boss, Lindsey Stuvick from Moulton Niguel Water District. So each of us have two slightly different things we want to focus on from Moulton Niguel. First, just a couple quick things about Moulton Niguel. We're in South Orange County. We do water, recycled water, and wastewater services, about 55,000 connections. And one important note is that we do use a water budget-based rate structure for all of our customer accounts. I wanted to focus on some of the water efficiency programmatic uses of AMI. So first thing is going to be commercial mixed use meter identification. We're going to focus also on 7-day per week irrigation, not as a rule or anything that customers are breaking, but as a method of just reaching out and helping customers. And then estimating potential savings for irrigation system, master valve, and flow sensor devices. So the first thing was using AMI data to find mixed use meters. This became obviously a thing because of just wanting better customer data, but also with the regulations from the conservation framework, you need to identify mixed use meters. So our team used the AMI hourly data to find what we'd call an anomaly within the weekly water use. And using a lot of statistician big words that I don't really know about, someone else on our team does, But the important thing is noting that the really big jumps in water use are anomalies in the data, and that identified irrigation. And it was pretty much true for 99% of our commercial accounts, except for a couple bars, because they are open, not as much during the day, but mostly in the evening, and have this huge spike in use. But anyways, most of the accounts, it worked great. And so that was really cool. The other thing I want to show is the 7-day per week irrigation. And, you know, being a water budget based rate agency, the customer gets the monthly bill saying that they're over budget because they're watering too much. So that obviously is a signal to them, but they may not necessarily know why they're over budget until they call us if we're able to help them over the phone or do an audit on site. And so we use this methodology of detecting irrigation on the residential accounts. And then we're able to see, for example, this particular site that has 7-day-a-week spikes. And so then we're able to reach out to the customers. And it was actually very interesting to see some of the customers' homes, you know, it was maybe 2 weeks ago it started. And then we see this whole block all have this issue. Oh, power must have cycled last week. And these folks didn't have a 9-volt battery backup in their timer, right? Or it could be that maybe the home recently sold. We look at the account. Oh, it looks like they just changed ownership last month. That's what happened. Power went off during the old person, or maybe the realtor cranked it up to get the lawn super green. We've seen some homes where it's just been like that years. So then we place a call, and then it's funny to see the homes drop off the list. It's great to see, and the customers are super appreciative. We turn that into a residential survey, maybe get them a weather-based irrigation controller. So it's a huge thing. Customers are really appreciative of that support. And then the last thing that we've been using AMI to do is estimating potential savings for irrigation master valve flow sensor. So for those of you who don't know what that is, imagine your irrigation system at home where you have a valve that waters this part of the yard, another valve that waters this part of the yard. The master valve is in front of all of those valves that would turn on with the individual valves. So if your valve got stuck on, like we saw earlier, right, that master valve would have turned off and it wouldn't have allowed the system to continue running. The other thing it would do, for example, is if you had a mainline break and just catastrophic loss of water, that master valve would have stayed closed and prevented that leak, at least during the time when it shouldn't be running, but would also ping the controller and the operator of the controller that there's an issue and it needs to be investigated. So huge potential savings, but how much, right? So what we did 2 different analyses. One, we went back and looked at sites that we had received work orders from either the customer or citizens saying, hey, water's flooding on Crown Valley Parkway, go out and check it out. We would go out, turn off the meter, notify the customer that they had a catastrophic leak. We were able to go back and quantify the water loss by the customer using the hourly AMI data. So we did that analysis. But then sideline, we looked at what are all the sites, the irrigation only sites that have these continuous usage alerts. And we're able to quantify how much that water is that's being leaked out. And one thing that was kind of interesting, so the findings were a median savings of 0.061, but average of 0.263. That's a huge variance. And it's because there are so many huge outliers that just have, let's say, a 10-inch meter. Well, a crack on a 10-inch service line is a lot more water loss than a 1-inch meter, right? So we feel pretty confident that no matter what, this program would save water. But the AMI data made that possible. So we wouldn't have to wait years and years after the device is installed to do a retrospective analysis on water savings. So I'm going to stop and turn over to Lindsey.
Thank you. I think we've already hit our 1 minute mark, so I'm going to go quickly. But I did want to share, because I know we've talked a lot about the water efficiency benefits of AMI today, but there really is a ton of operational benefits that could be yielded through AMI. And I'll just briefly touch on some of the things that Moulton Niguel is exploring. Because when you think about it, you have those collector towers out there, you've got thousands of data collectors at meter sites. It's really just a matter of looking at those things as data collection sites and like a communication system where you can get stuff in. It's almost like having thousands of IoT things just sitting out there that you can marry with your other data sets, like your SCADA data, your pump data, your reservoir data, your energy data. And so even your GIS data, and that's some of the stuff that we're starting to explore. A huge one for us, and I'll just skip ahead to the pictures because they're nicer, is water loss mass balance. So these are parts of our service area. They're actually in an open zone, but we also have some closed zones. But using this data, you can make virtual DMAs. So a DMA, district metered area, it's basically just a hydraulically isolated portion of your distribution system. And if you know the water going in, either through a pump or through another meter, and you know the water going out through your AMI meters, you could just do a mass balance. What's going in, what's going out. And then if you've got some type of leak detection team, you could be a lot more surgical about how you direct those folks to actually look for leaks within your service area. I know a lot of folks start at point 8 and walk the whole system after 16 months to go back to point A. But if you could just drill down into your service areas without having to carve up your distribution hydraulically, like physically carve it up, if you could just use data to carve it up, you could isolate portions of it like what you see there in the light blue, and just use that data to move people around. The next thing that we're also looking at is peak shavings with our energy data. So if you've got SDG&E, SCE, I think even PGE, you have 15-minute interval data. You can compare that with your hourly data. We've created some diurnal curves. So what you got here in blue is the water, red is the energy. Can you get some peak shavings? Can you lower your demand in certain areas to reduce your peaks? Because if anybody that's managing data right now knows those time of use peaks can get very expensive. And you're not only paying for the hourly cost, you're paying for the peaking cost. So is there a way to introduce like VFDs or something to slowly ramp up your pumping so that way you don't peak too quickly? And so this is from a closed zone pump station at our service area, or open zone, excuse me. And then the last one, and this is really cool, and then I'll step off and I'll be happy to answer questions after this, but the district is also exploring looking at, this is outside of our AMI system, but we're using our FlexNet. FlexNet is basically the towers, the collection towers. We're looking at stormwater capture. So we've taken 60 gateways, they're basically flow sensors that we've situated at outfalls. And for the last 2 years have been collecting data within the Aliso Creek. So that way we can start hydraulically modeling hydrologically modeling wet weather flows, dry weather flows, how much water could actually be taken out of this creek and repurposed within the service area as an additional source of water. And this isn't even using a standard AMI meter. This is using a gateway that is compatible with our Census FlexNet. So lots of really cool things that you can do just outside of customer service, which we do a lot of those things, but wanted to share this because there's a whole world out there, and we're excited to explore it. So thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Sandro Ayala. I'm the customer service rep for Nipomo CSD.
And my name is Luisa Cahua. I'm the customer service clerk at the Nipomo Community Services District.
So just a little bit about us. We are actually a pretty small district. We have about 4,600 water connections. We are very much in the infancy stage of AMI. We have about 35% of our meters fully deployed, right? Meaning they have a smart point, a smart meter, and we get data to our office, which Luisa gets to dive into. So we actually phased out our deployment. Cost for the district was one of the major issues for us to be able to deploy this. We started with infrastructure. We use the Census FlexNet as well. We started with the TGBs. We started rolling this out when COVID hit. So we encountered pretty much every supply chain issue. It took a long time to get some of these things out here, but we wanted to stick with our plan. And so we focused on meter changeouts to make sure that we were in par with that 10-year program. So that was the second phase, right? We targeted our high-end users, irrigation, commercial. That's what we felt the district was gonna have the biggest impact in a positive way for water efficiency. And so, so we started with the Nipomo Community Park, right? It's a county-ran park. And as we went into this, because we come from a completely different vantage point, right? We were still learning the process and what these meters actually do, the capabilities. And so this park actually helped us figure that out, right? A lot of these guys have talked about thresholds for consumption, right? With the continuous flow alarms, the rate, right? High flow, low flow, that kind of situation. And this particular park was what gave us that revealed these answers for us. Once we established this was one of the first ones that we fully deployed. And this actually sparked a conversation, right? And it set the framework for how we were going to deal with irrigation leaks or leaks in general. We found that the data consumption was peaking, and we had a phone call, right? Luisa gave a phone call to the county and said, hey, you're exceeding, $20,000, $30,000 bill for this month alone, which obviously raised eyebrows. And we had a conversation with the county, right? And we became part of that conversation, right? Through the data that was provided. We found that granular set of data where we can give them hourly intervals. And it really showed us how much of a part we can play into these conversations, right? We can let them basically dial down or dial in what their irrigation consumption is, right? What times does it start? And if what their expected flow or water consumption matches what they're actually registering in their meters. And so what this did for us was it helped us, again, understand our meters a lot better. It also drives the conversation of what meters do we want to use, right? There's a lot of variations, even within census on its own. And so once we figured those parameters for these meters, we were able to scale this to our district needs, right? A lot of these guys have mentioned you can change parameters specifically for certain customers, and we've learned to do that. And so, we've done irrigation, commercial, residential, and because of the framework that we created with the park, we were able to just really show data to the customers as they need it when they're looking for a leak. A lot of the time, customers don't even know where to start, right? And this helps us guide them. And so now, as we explore more of these technologies through census, the district has now rolled out to implement a leak detection for our own system. And so we're going to deploy that actually in the next couple of weeks. I was actually hoping we would have it already to have more data for you guys, but we're still figuring out situations with engineering and operations where they want them. One of the biggest impacts that I think AMI has had for us, even in our own system with the accuracy of the meters, was our non-revenue loss water, or water loss, I'm sorry. Right before the program started in 2016, as we ramped up in these last 3 years, our water loss has gone down from about 14% to about 4%. Now, we understand that it's not all just the meters, but we test all our old meters regularly. We test about 10 to 15%. And the data has come back that most of these meters are about 80% to 85% accurate, right? And that's just because the town's kind of an older town, and these meters have been in the ground for a really long time. So it definitely helps with that. And as we explore more, I mean, this panel is, we'll definitely be in touch to help us navigate through that.
So I just want to point out that the district is really small and very rural. And so we did have a lot of different challenges that we weren't expecting. And again, with rolling out this program when COVID hit and all the delays and everything, we were installing meters and activating radios without actually getting any data. And we're like, fingers crossed, when that tower goes up, everything will work. And it kind of did work out that way. So that was really good. But I just want to highlight that AMI is possible even at a smaller scale, because you can see, all the benefits that come from it and how it intertwines with every bit of your operation, right? And it is cost prohibitive, right? It's a lot of money to start out, but scaling it was to our advantage. And it just motivated us to really move faster on this rollout. So that's the district. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Linda Higgins. I'm with Placer County Water Agency, and this is my, I'm going to top what Justin said, my lovely, wonderful, super smart data and everything else person at the agency. So she's going to come up and share all the challenges that we have and all the roads ahead, but I'm going to give you a little bit of background about where we're at. So we're similar to Nipomo, except for we have a lot more customers, but we don't have as many. We have almost probably just as many customers on AMI. So here we are. We have 1,500 square miles. So our service area goes from just north of Sacramento all the way up to Lake Tahoe. So it makes everything metering and AMI a little challenging. Cool stuff. We have 5 powerhouses to generate hydropower. We have 170 miles of canal water. I'll show you one of our wooden flumes later. And we serve, we have 41,000 customers. I know that. I knew that. Okay. So here we are. Cool maps. So everyone has had a lot of charts and maps, but we're going to show you lots of pictures because I think, AMI, especially for water efficiency, is sort of the same. We just have different parameters. So we have a Badger cellular system for AMI. We also have drive-by too for the majority of our service area. And but we also have Itron's 100W, so we can get hourly data on those if we were to go drive by and actually get them. So we piloted AMI in 2017 in our most difficult topography, very rural, curb and gutters, nope. And the meter could be about a mile away from the home in some cases. So it was challenging, it was fun, but it was beautiful too. Staff always would volunteers to go up there to troubleshoot. So 2017, and we haven't moved very fast. And the reason is because, and Mychel will share this too, in my department, I manage both the water efficiency team and the metering team, same group of people. So when we have to troubleshoot what's going on or go look at any data, or if we generate a report or a work order, we just have to walk across the hall and hand it to our colleagues, or it's the same group of people. So we've sort of had to learn, okay, if we generate work, we're just generating it for ourselves because we're under the umbrella of customer service. So we also work, the billing department in customer service sends us work just as much as we would be creating with AMI. So I already wrote this down. I'm gonna call Deb in Santa Rosa because their billing department does a lot of the work for them. They're the ones in the office. Our team is out in the field, so they have the capacity to make phone calls and generate letters. This is great. So we're here just as much to learn from our colleagues and all of you as we are to share information. So please help us out. Okay, so here's one of our flumes. So we're doing a lot of the things that everyone else is doing up here too. We use the data for billing reads, obviously. And a couple of our success stories, we had a major fire in a rural area up here. Actually, our general manager was booted out of his house because of the fire. So it's interesting when the big cheese doesn't have his home. So we're all very invested in what was happening. So we had only one staff person was allowed to go up with the emergency response people. And so they allowed only one person from the agency to go up. And so one of our treatment plants, our smallest treatment plant, is up in our rural area, and it was losing water like rapidly, super fast. And they're like, what can we do? So our engineering department knew that we had AMI up there, and they said, hey, can you guys give us a report? So I was in a panic. I mean, we're like fire, half of our staff is like sleeping in RVs, and we're trying to, we have a lot of staff that have animals. So we're all in a panic. So I actually called Badger and I said, we have a major fire. Is there anything that AMI can help us do? And so they got together, a team of people scrambled, and then, basically kind of walked us through, but it helped us. We were able to look at, some of these homes were already burnt down. And folks, before they left their homes, they turned on all of their sprinklers, everything. And so we had, the people were able to, one staff person went out with emergency responders and they were able to turn off, some of the areas, but they were able to easily target. It's either these customers' homes, on a map on AMI, or it was, the treatment plant, or sorry, the distribution system, but a lot of them were from the homes. So that was really, really cool. We worked quickly with Badger Meter. We worked quickly with, the first responders, our engineering department. So that's something that I think AMI is really, really cool for. Aside from, like I said, billing reads, and then also we're using it now. So I will share this. It's been 7 years for our AMI pilot. We've increased slowly. We've added it to we have 2 universities, so we've added it there. So some similar, we're working with our larger customers. We did have a very large pottery, big place that does a lot of pottery for very high-end homes. And they were, oh my gosh, okay, I'm gonna keep going. I gotta wrap up. Anyways, we were able to help them look at their water use. They wanted to install a bathroom, and they were gonna have to increase their connection charge by 50 grand. So we were able to help them with AMI find a leak underground, never surfaced. So it was really cool stuff. All right, I'm gonna move on and let Mychel talk about who's gonna look at this data for us besides her.
All right, I'm Mychel with Placer County Water Agency, and I'm kind of the data person in our department. So I'm going to talk about, just very quickly, Linda. Okay, so this was, when we first got AMI, we found that our existing staff roles weren't really set up to have a dedicated person for the AMI data, and then also a field staff to work that some of the leaks and the work that we found. So one thing we noticed is that as we scale up AMI in our service area, we're going to have to make adjustments to our staff. I think this is our last slide. So we had started with a very proactive approach when we got AMI. So we were looking at the leak analytics and Beacon, and it was great. We were finding all sorts of information, but we found that that created a lot of work for our team. As Linda said, we're the water efficiency department. We're also the metering department. And so for now, we're taking a much more reactive approach where we will use Beacon and the AMI data to get billing reads. We can use it to educate customers on their water use when we find that to be necessary. But for now, we're not as proactive. We love Beacon and the data. It's interesting and it's super useful. But we found there's much more to it than analyzing it. So it needs to be worked on. Customers need to be followed up with. We have to report on it, and we have to measure it because we've got to show what we're doing. And so in conclusion, we found that we're ready to probably put our customers on ion water, give them the information, and hope that that helps with some of that workload.
And I'll share that now after 7 years, we are putting AMI in our specs. We've moved forward. We have a 5-year, $1 million AMI meter replacement plan going forward. So the pilot took a long time. We had all those supply chain issues too, but now we're moving forward. So we're excited about it.
Hi, my name is Ed Cooney with the town of Hillsborough. I also have Tony Brenner here, formerly the water supervisor for the town of Hillsborough, and now the public works superintendent over operations. He can answer any operational based questions on AMI. I was the project manager for the implementation and ongoing support for it. About Hillsborough, Hillsborough is a residential community, 100% residential, about 4,200 connections, accounts, and we have very large landscape residential parcels and households, lots of per capita water use. In 2017, we replaced our entire meter and meter infrastructure system head to toe. We replaced it with all census meters, census FlexNet system. We have 4 base stations, And we went with Water Smart as our customer service portal. They're now VX Smart. We did that in about 5 months from when we began the actual construction project to its termination. We were determined to get it all done quickly. We thought that was important. The other thing we thought that was very important was customer service registration. First of all, we realized that our Water Smart customer service portal was the face of the entire system. Secondly, we quickly realized that the more folks we got registered on that system, the more time it saved for Tony and his workforce. Tony can, after the presentation, can talk about how often he was called out after a 2-month, because we bill bi-monthly, a 2-month billing notice came in, and the customer said, "This is impossible. I did not use this water. You got to help me." And that turned into an hour and a half conversation, right, per customer. Multiply that across many customers, you can get the idea of the time sink. We were very deliberate in driving our registration rate. We're now at 85%. With 95% of our customers, we have contact information, so we can send them an alert. We're essentially fully automated. We have some customers on the margins that we have to reach out to independently, but not nearly the amount of time we used to have to. We send them a leak alert, they address it, it falls off, we don't touch it. We thought that was very important, along with being able to reach out to our customers for things like water main breaks. How'd we do it? We set up a formal plan, an outreach plan. We had a communications commission, we worked with them, and we sort of took a progressive approach. First, we tried everything, but we measured the results, right? What worked for our customers? What did they respond to? When we did this, what did our registration rate do? And then we quickly began focusing on, the few things that really drove our registration. So what worked for us won't work for every agency, but I think it is important to figure out what will work for your agency to drive registration. It's a powerful tool, and if you can get folks to use it, you can get out of the middle of it and save a lot of time. We like our systems. We like the census system. It works really well for us, and we have challenging terrain, but the licensed 900 megahertz frequency really pushes through most of the time. Our Water Smart system, well, we really like it. It works for us really well. Our customers like it, most of the time. But we have our challenges. But the system's mature. What we've begun to focus on now really is all this data we have. We have so much data, right? We've had our system for, and we're a small agency. We have all this data. And guess what? That's only one of our sources of data. As a small agency, we have SCADA data, right? When do our pumps pump? Our tank levels. We have hourly data from our purchase meters. We have hourly data from our customer meters. We have water pressure data. It goes on, but it's all siloed. And guess what? We don't have any data scientists in our agency on board. And I don't know how many agencies do. Fortunately, though, we know somebody who has data scientists, the California Data Collaborative. And so we, a year and a half ago, became members of the CADC and began working with them to try to understand what we don't have the ability to understand. And in fact, when Census came out with Data Lake, I don't know if you all have heard about Data Lake, but it basically gets agencies access to all the raw data, which we don't know how to use. We said, hey, CADC, do you want to get that data and help us use it? And so we gave them access to that data. And so now we're working with them to figure out use cases. And some of the use cases are surprising. Sanitary sewers, where they have what's called inflow and infiltration. Measuring that is sometimes difficult. You can use Timed irrigation during winter to really get in kind of real time. What is actual indoor usage? When is it happening as compared to rain events? And really understand. And then your outflowing sewer meter data. That's useful information. That tells you whether your sewer pipes are leaking or not. We have in Hillsborough 150 dead-end water mains where turnover is infrequent. That causes nitrification. Tony's guys are out running around trying to figure out which dead-end line has water quality issues. So we're going to do an analysis with CADC to see which are the worst, which ones have the least amount of turnover, and focus on those first. And really go after those and do a top-down approach. Try to be smart. So how do we use all this data that we have that is siloed, that we're collecting, small agency, no data scientists, how do we get our arms around that and begin using it? And we are turning to CADC to at least try to begin to do that. And that's our presentation. If you have any questions, thanks.
Excellent job, panel. So now we'll take questions. And if you want to go up to the microphone to ask your questions, unless you're like me who can really project their voice, said my second grade teacher.
Yeah, no, I'll use the microphone. Hi, Mesa, Carpinteria Valley Water District. I heard thresholds mentioned a couple of times, and I'm curious how you go about setting those thresholds. And that is thresholds for leaks that you then take action on. So we're looking at, if we want to take enforcement activities like, disconnecting the customer or issuing fines. Say if they we've contacted them and they haven't followed up, how do we set thresholds for where we take action, especially based on different types of customers too?
And a lot of us can answer that. And I'll tell you quickly, in Beverly Hills, I started mine at 0, like if you had the tiniest leak, and then I would get like 30, 40 calls an hour. Then I learned from other agencies like William, they put it at a cubic foot. Right. And so everybody does their thresholds different based on a variety of things, but I'll let a couple people here give their examples.
Yeah, we have a team of data scientists on staff. So we were actually able to take the AMI data, break it up by the customer type, and then model, how many notices would go out if we did 1 cubic foot for 22 hours or 3 cubic feet for this amount, and then had to try to identify it that way. So we were actually able to model it, which was nice. And then we noticed once we set it at a certain level, started sending alerts out that we were getting phone calls, and it was mostly from parents with teenagers that had, kids coming home in the middle of the night, and it wasn't a true water or like leak. It was just consistent usage. And so, it's for us, it was a mix of modeling and then feedback from customers, and you're really trying to kind of hone in on what that true value looks like. And for us, we have the same value, a threshold for every residential customer. And so, some are going to be a little too lenient, some are going to be a little too loose, but that's the limitation that we currently have with our system. But others, I think, are able to change theirs. So I'll go ahead.
I mean, we started with guesstimates, and I think also just staff capacity starts to function with that, because how much can you handle? And as the system has matured and settled down, the thresholds have tightened up a little bit. But we can adjust them as needed for specific situations. We do that a lot with CII. So we'll, and then it's just working a lot with the on-site folks, engineering teams, whoever is knowledgeable on that site, to start to find something that makes sense. So we're still providing them with leak detection.
Next question.
Good morning. Thank you guys for talking about this very important topic in California of leak detection and, where we're going as a state. I have a question for the general panelist as far as leak detection outside of what you're finding through the AMI system. Are you looking at any other technologies for the rest of your distribution system? And also service lines. So there's technologies available from anywhere from satellite imaging, ground penetration technology, all the way to finding leaks via acoustic leak detection through remote access monitors and hydrants as well as acoustic leak detection from within the meter itself. So I'd be interested in knowing on the utilities that you work for, if you're doing anything in addition to that to find those leaks, or if you've considered it and what you're thinking about and why.
So we had a grant in about 2015, where we actually purchased some acoustic leak detection equipment that we had to go actually and install. And so we monitored that actually, ironically, in the same service area. So very rural, difficult topography. And we found that there are a lot of leaks. One of the major issues, though, is actually the cost to go and repair them. So along with the regular team that's already looking at, leaks on a regular basis, then we had, now we've discovered a lot more. And then, so we obviously go out and repair the ones that are major leaks. But as leaks they just get, you repair some and then you hear more leaks, and then you repair those and then you hear other leaks. So we got some pushback from our distribution crews, like, what are you doing to us? So I think, with the new regs, we are going to have to do more, and water loss, we're definitely going to have to do more. But so that leak detection equipment is now not installed. So, and it was also, it's older. So, it would be nice to have something a little bit more current, but I think there's, many water agencies, probably on this panel, it's working with the other crews, and what do you do to repair those leaks, and how do you repair them? Because that's the most costly part. It's not finding them. That's easy. It's what do you do? What's the next step?
Yeah, and so for us, we're using the same acoustic method. That's what I was mentioning earlier, that we're going to try to deploy in the next couple of weeks. We're taking a different approach. We're letting operations handle that, just because it makes more sense for them to manage their time. We that was one of their concerns, was the amount of work that would come. And so we opted to just give them access to that, right? And so we'll see how it works.
I'm actually not sure if we use anything else, but I know that our system, that because it's throughout the entire city, that getting AMI really changed everything. And we don't have a lot of leaks in our system because we've had very aggressive asset management. It's been very proactive for many years. So we're lucky to have a pretty tight system.
Next question.
Hi, Debbie. I'm Tennille with Otay Water District. And I got here a little bit late, so I'm not sure it seemed like some of the ones towards the end had smaller agencies. We have about 50,000 connections at Otay. We serve a large service area, and the topography is different throughout our service area. So we're installing AMI right now, but some areas and some of our customers may not be able to have it because of where it's located. So I'm just wondering if any of you have run into that issue where you're having maybe your customers say, well, why can't I have AMI and have access to that system, and how you've addressed that for areas. Maybe none of you have, I don't know. I just thought we're much larger than some of you are.
So for us, the topography has been such a challenge. One of the things that we ended up figuring out is that the signal strength for the FlexNet really modeled our SCADA reception as well. And that's something that we eventually, with engineering, figured out, right? The trouble spots they had was exactly the same ones that we did. So I would say, maybe talk to whoever runs your SCADA network and see what issues they have, because that will give you a pretty good indication. As far as for us, what we did is we changed since we're rolling it out in 10 years, we changed the direction, what parts we were going to actually change meters in, right? So we can actually get service for them and hopefully try to figure out that issue once we get closer to completion.
I was just going to share, in the city of Sacramento, we have a gateway system, but in some cases there are problems with the gateways. So we do have a few cellular endpoints where we've had repeat issues with those gateways, not collecting the data from all the meters, kind of going into those particular meters. So that might be a possibility. I mean, this city of Sacramento is pretty flat, but we do have buildings that get in the way, which is why we have so many gateways.
Thank you all. Let's give our amazing AMI team